Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And you might be thinking, where are they? Where are they in this podcast, which is for listening to?
Ooh, we're not here.
No video this week. The reason is we've got a guest, as you've probably told already from the name of this podcast. Sorry about the bad grammar there, Hayden. I'm feeling a bit rough. I don't know about you.
Tell.
I remember last time you said, should I mention how I feel rough? And I went, no, Hayden,
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Because it's the 54th time you felt rough. But it is one of the very rare occasions I feel a bit rough.
Well, it's a good job we've got an audio-only episode where we can really hear that chesty little voice you've got going on. You okay, honey?
I'm all right. At least you can't see me because I feel like I look rough. I just don't feel great. My son had a chest infection.
My son? That sounds so weird. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I feel like you always say Rory.
Oh,
My
I don't
son.
know. My son, the person who is my son, had a chest infection. And it was the first time he got really poorly. It was horrible. Oh. It's not nice at all. But I'm wondering if I've got like the dregs of his cold and cough. I don't know. But I just don't feel very good. So that's a nice positive start to this episode, isn't it?
Well, I mean, let's make it more positive, shall we? Despite not feeling good right now, how was your week at school?
It was all right. It was good. We went swimming. And anyone who's taken their class swimming, I'm sure knows, it's an excellent thing to do. And we always bang on about this in the podcast. It's like a broken record. When we did cooking, I was like, we did cooking. Because as a teacher, you love these things with your class. Of course. They don't get a chance to do sometimes. So we went swimming with the children, hopped on a coach. They absolutely loved the coach. Mm-hmm. We went into the swimming pool and they start like judging people, like just putting them into groups basically.
Yeah.
The ones who can't swim stay in the small pool and just practice moving in the water, literally.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them go up into the big pool and are split off there. And I just realised watching, there are at least two children who I swear looked like they'd never been in a pool before.
Oh, really?
Like they were
might not have been.
with such trepidation just walking in.
Yeah.
And you know, like sometimes walking down, especially into the shallow part, there's like two beams either side that are quite far out.
Yeah.
You're just meant to like use one hand to go down.
Yeah.
And one of my kids was just reaching as far as they possibly could, stretching out just so they could hold on to both.
Yeah.
And tiptoeing down the most shallow pool.
Man.
And I was like, oh, have you never been swimming? And we
That
live near the coast.
That could be terrifying. You know, maybe they've only been like once or twice and with their parents and like the step of, oh, my family aren't here. The people who I need to look after me are not even here with me.
Yeah.
Got to do it myself.
So it's good though. I think it's something they should do.
Did they have fun?
They had so much fun.
Okay, so how do you record this in books?
There was no recording. They actually got out of the water and they were soaking wet. And I said, oh, you're not allowed to be wet.
No.
And they were just like, a few of them were like, what? I was like, no, sorry, you're not allowed to be wet, guys. This is school time. You can't come out dripping
Did
wet.
you actually?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And they were just like, but we've just been. I was like, I'm joking. I played the ultimate trick on them because we're on the way home, much like you said. It was an afternoon.
They weren't there. Oh, I left them there.
No, we were on the way back, and we returned to school with about half an hour left.
Right.
So the kids were asking what we're going to do.
I know what's going on.
I was on the coach though, and I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I was with my teaching assistant. I was like, I don't know, Mr. Price. What are we going to do when we get back? And I just turned and said, well, we've got a lesson to do when we get back. We've got to get the books out. We've got half an hour. We've got to get a lesson done. And they didn't even go, no, stop it. They all just were really sad.
Yeah.
They were just like dejected.
Doesn't that just say something?
I know.
About the expectations, but they know
say.
that they're just absolutely worked to the bone.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, you can't just do one thing.
No.
It's impossible.
No.
It's impossible. And I was like, I'm joking. Obviously, we got back and we just watched someone read a story out loud on YouTube.
Yeah,
and they just sat down and they chilled.
You couldn't even be bothered to read a story.
I couldn't even bother.
It's a pre-recording of you on YouTube reading the story.
I read this story once and every year you just watch me read this story.
Yeah. Oh, swimming's cool though. Stuff like that, you know, we talked about it loads of times on this podcast. So many times, it's almost getting boring to hear. But the kids, we want them to have fun. Yeah. Kids go to school to enjoy themselves and enjoy subjects. And swimming is a subject.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's part
Absolutely.
of PE.
It's PE.
So, yeah.
So that was really good. How about you?
Yeah, I had a really nice week. Had one lovely highlight. One of those heartwarming moments where you're like, oh, I do just love being with these kids though. I do just love interacting with them and teaching them and just being part of their life. So I had a boy who left last year.
Not with you now, then.
Not with me now, yeah. The boy left last year. I was really fond of. Someone you were really fond of, actually. Obviously, I can't say the name on this, but it was someone you really got on well with when you taught them back before. And anyway, his sister's at our school, and she came up to me a few weeks ago and had a letter from him. And she said, I got a letter for you from my bro. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was quite funny. It was a silly letter. But it was also quite sweet, and obviously wanted a reply. So I wrote a letter back to him, and I heard from our deputy head day before yesterday, that the parent of this child came up to him after school and said, oh, he has framed this letter and put it on his wall, and he was having a really tough week last week at secondary school, and it's just perked him up and highlighted, made a highlight of his week. and he's really happy now, and he's so pleased that Mrs. Stevens wrote back, so thank you. And I was like, oh man, do you know what? Those are the moments I forget sometimes. You get so caught into the daily life of plan, teach, mark. Oh no, that's already taken more hours than I'm paid for. Getting annoyed by that and just being like, oh, the slog. That actually just those little moments for those kids and are just so special, and they make it worth it. So I had a really nice moment.
Oh, sweet. And then you had to go and mark your books.
Then I had to go mark the books.
Yeah, for 2 hours.
At home because I spent too long writing a letter to a child.
Oh, but that's such the sad thing about this situation is all the nice stuff gets eaten up. We talked about it before, like doing a club.
Yeah.
I love doing a club.
Yeah.
I love doing a club where it's like my interests and the kids' shared interests, and we get together and we play some chess or something, or we do a board game, or we watch the TV, or whatever it is in the club.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't do that now because I want to go home. And do you know what? I've got to choose between doing that club or marking your book, which you won't look at or care about.
Yeah.
And the policy is you've got to do the one that I think is pointless.
Spending time with your family, because it's like you could do both, but you would then personally lose out, and you just can't do it all the time.
No.
So, no, anyway.
Frustrating. Well, we are going to have a chat with Omar, the unofficial teacher's manual author.
Yes.
Lots of posts on Twitter. Very real guy. When we spoke a lot in the past over the last few weeks about how we say similar things.
He's very cool.
Our core base and his core base, I think, are after the same thing, which is just teachers being realistic. We're going to get into that chat in a second, but I do have one story I wanted to tell. We got a little story on the Instagram. Little plug for the Instagram now at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. Do follow us. Do send us messages. I talk to loads of you now, so thank you if you have. Message me about the podcast or anything. I really appreciate it.
Please do. I can stop making fake accounts and chatting to Dylan so he feels good. It's real now.
Hayden doesn't see any of it. It's fine. It's just me you're chatting to. So we have someone, again, spoken to frequently over the years, listening to the podcast. They were listening to an older one, catching up.
Right.
And they said, I've got a story I need to tell you. It was, and I was like, okay, no problem. And a little bit of I guess it's a disclaimer to an extent. It's a bit of dark humor coming up. Right. But this person has given me the green light and said
me, then.
They found it was funny. They found it funny anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it out now. I've listened to an older episode and you mentioned school trips. One I think we did near the start, actually. Talking about school trips.
Yeah, it's an old.
And it reminded me of a funny story that happened to my son. He was in year 1, so 5 years old, when my husband's nana, Pat, passed away. My son had to miss a school trip because of the funeral fell on the same day.
Yeah, sure.
When my son came back, the class were writing about the trip. So my son's TA made up a completely different learning objective so that he could write about the funeral.
Oh, crikey. Okay.
It was complete with stick figures of the coffin and the hearse.
Oh, God.
I have a dark sense of humour, so I couldn't help but laugh when I read it a few months later when you see his book. Right? My in-laws thought it was funny and applauded the initiative of the TA. Yeah. This is where it was, for me, it was just so, it's already funny. The fact they're all right about a school trip to the zoo or something.
That was ballsy, man. Honestly, the teacher bit.
They've just done this with stick figures and he's writing about it. Jesus. The learning objective written in the book when he saw the books months later. Hello, I can describe my Nana Pat's funeral.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh God! Do you reckon he wrote that, or do you reckon the TA?
That was the TA giving them the learning objective. I mean, that's your learning objective today.
It's one of those things where I'm like, objectively, it's probably not actually that bad. Like they're probably trying to be sweet and be like, "Yes, it's a real experience. Kids should experience real things." But I don't think I would ever have the balls to say to a kid, "Just write about the funeral instead."
Well, everyone else is writing about that amazing museum trip they went on.
You write about the funeral. I don't know. That's funny. I'm glad she had. I tell you what, there are some parents that probably could have taken that a different way. So I'm glad she had a sense of humour with it. Yeah. And it was. And he enjoyed it.
He liked to write about it.
If he's fine and he wrote about it.
It was just the idea of months later when the books get sent home. Let's have a flick through what you've been learning about, son. Oh, the pyramids, nice. Oh, Nana Pat's funeral.
Yeah. Did everyone do a bit of writing on this, or? So I don't think I remember writing into the school, actually.
I don't think that was the school trip. Just 30 children sat at the back of the procedure.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So that made me laugh.
Yeah, well, I can see why you enjoy people writing in.
Yeah, please do. Please write in with anything you've got. And the darker the humour, the better, usually.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm not going to lie. Right, Hayden, should we wrap this up? Not this whole episode, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Let's get into our chat, shall we?
Right, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am like a kid at Christmas, okay, Hayden? Because we have with us right now Omar. Firstly, Omar, thank you so much for joining us on a school night.
Mate, you're very welcome. 100%. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be so good. So for anyone listening out there, any of our listeners, Omar is someone you absolutely have to be following, specifically on Twitter or X, but you do post on Instagram as well, some of your posts. We're going to come on to them in a second, but just so people know who we're talking to today, Omar, you are the host of the Unofficial Teacher Manual podcast. I absolutely love it because unlike our podcast where we just kind of rant for an hour, it's very precise, 10 to 15 minute. It helps you understand something. You get 5 points really quickly. For me, it's like the perfect commute to work, listen to boost your teaching. So how long have you been doing that for?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I was aiming for when I did it. So it's nice to hear that. It's been about 2 years now. Yeah, 2022 is when I started. And a lot of them, it started with just me. So that was like a solo podcast. And I kept it to 10 minutes because I thought, just for the reasons that you said. Yeah. And then I gradually started getting guests on. So I've had head teachers on, other authors as well. So yeah, it's going pretty well, I think. It's always hard to find a basis for comparison with your podcast. Do you know what I mean? You get we get the numbers through, and kind of how many listens you're having, but you're never quite sure what to compare it to. But to be honest, I like doing it, and I'm not overly bothered about obviously you want people to listen to it, but I'm not going to obsess over that, No,
I think that's really important with podcasts specifically. We've seen a lot during our time kind of come in, go out, and people aren't really in for it. You've got to enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And even if we always say, me and Hayden, we always say, if we get one message from someone saying, oh, I listened to that podcast and now my life's improved because of this. Cool, that was worth it immediately.
Worth it. Honestly, we'll it gives you so much joy, doesn't it? You're over the moon that day. Yeah, no,
it's amazing. Well, as well as the podcast, you're an author. You've written at least 3 books that I know of. You've got the Unofficial Teacher's Manual, the original, I think back in 2017, you wrote that one. You've got Teaching for Realists, which as soon as I saw that title, I was like, that's a book I need to read. And also Building Relationships in School. So how's the authorship journey gone for you? How did you find that? Was it something come naturally to you? Was it something you always wanted to do?
Oh, right. So what happened was this 2017 when my first book was written. So in the year, I would say, kind of preceding that, you notice that there's a lot of things that they don't teach you on the PGC, and no disrespect to the PGC, because they teach you a lot of useful things too. And you see teachers making these mistakes, not just as trainees, but in the first few years, just making mistakes, and these are not mistakes which are in the classroom. So I'm not talking about the principles of Rosenshine, AFL, or anything like that. I'm talking about the stuff which they don't talk about. And you see people making the same mistakes over and over again. And I just thought to myself, you know what? Someone needs to put this in a book, and there's no reason why it can't be me. Because at the time, I just left my third school that I taught at. And I did this both times. Whenever I left a school, I didn't make a leaving speech. I made a leaving statement. So I would write it all up and I'd email it to everybody. And it would always be about 4 or 5 pages, 5 or 6 pages long, if I remember correctly. And I'd get so much nice feedback from them. Do you know what? I absolutely enjoyed reading this. Thank you so much. We're going to miss you and all that kind of thing. And I always have had something of a passion for writing, And from doing the statement the second time at my third school, I was like, that combined with what I just said about somebody needs to put this in a book, and there's no reason why it can't be me. I've been 11, 12 years in. I was at that point, more than that now, obviously. And then I just did it. I just finished I did the Birmingham half marathon at the time. And in my mind, because you have to, if you've ever trained for a marathon, you'll know.
We haven't.
You haven't? Okay. If you train for a marathon or a half marathon, in my case, I shouldn't say marathon. On the Sunday, you've got to do a long run.
Right.
Okay. A very long, slow run. And it was at that point on every Sunday where the chapters used to come to my mind, just because thoughts just flowing, Then I'd write them all down. So anyway, long story short, I went to some publishers with it, and they said, this is really good, but we don't do a genre like this, but we do like it. Okay. So I got about 17 rejections, all for the same reason, actually. Yeah, all for the same reason. They were like, this is really good, but this is not what we're looking for. We don't publish books like this. And of course, the edu publishers, at the time at least, I don't know what they're like now, they, unless you're research informed, they don't care. They don't have time for you. So I self-published, and from there, that did really well, particularly in the second year. So it was quite slow moving. Well, I say slow. I don't know what the basis for comparison is. It didn't do that well in the first year, but in the second year, then it did really well after that. Then off the back of that, I had publishers approach me actually saying, "Look, you did well.
Nice.
Do you want to write another one?"
Yeah.
With their tail between their legs, saying, "Oh, actually, yeah." It wasn't that good."
Actually, none of them rejected me though. To be fair, I mean,
Oh, that's brilliant. So you are an online sensation. You're an author.
You recognised Omar from somewhere else, though, right?
I'm pretty sure there's something else we need to mention, Omar.
Oh,
I
gosh.
feel like a few years ago you were really good at some sort of dance. I think it was the shuffle. The shuffle. I think you might have been a viral sensation. What was that about?
Yeah, no. So that was before there was no TikTok or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that didn't exist. But shuffling that's always been a thing, I'd say. And it was the end of the first week back in September of, I believe, 2019. And I just stayed behind a couple of nights after school and I learned how to shuffle. And my friend, technician at the time, I said, all right, just film this for a laugh. And then I posted it. And then I literally just posted it. You got to remember, at the time, I probably had like 2,000 followers or something, 3,000, something like that. So something not, massively significant. And I remember just making a cup of tea or whatever, and I came back and it was 150 likes. Now, but by that time, if I got like 100 likes in 3 days, it was like, oh my God, I got
I'm going viral.
I got 150 likes in like not even 10 minutes. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they just kept coming. Then I had my friends DMing me saying, this is going to go viral. I was like, what does viral mean? I don't know. What is that?
Is that some kind of illness?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then the next thing you know, Birmingham Mail are in my DMs saying, we want to do an article about this. And the ITV as well.
Yeah, I saw the ITV article. That's what popped up.
Yeah. Then I had to... So I agreed to the articles as well, on the condition that they don't mention the name of the school.
Sure.
And then I had told the head teacher when I got back, and the head teacher was like, you really should have asked permission first when you speak to the media, because that is, you do have to, and I should have remembered that, because I've been a union rep before.
Right.
And you are...
You're too excited.
If the media, if you're going to agree to an interview or whatever with the media, whatever it is, it could be something innocent, you do have to tell your head.
Right.
It's a bit like, just to digress slightly, if you're on strike, and you've got the picket line outside on the school gates, if somebody from the media approaches you for an interview, you can't agree. You can't say yes unless you've asked the head first.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I mean,
yeah. And the head will often tell you beforehand, saying, I don't want anybody agreeing. Yeah.
Right. Oh. I had no idea. I would have just done a media interview and got it wrong, because I would have just been like, yes, I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah. Good job we didn't start our own media outlet because of the strikes.
Podcast.
We made our own podcast instead.
What's the rule on that?
We won't talk to the media.
Yeah.
We'll just talk to everyone we possibly can.
We'll be the media. We'll cut the man out.
Oh dear.
Well, Omar, I must say, when I read your tweets, I do get that vibe, that authorship vibe. The way you write is quite engaging. It makes me want to read on. And I know they're quite short tweets often, but you still pack a punch in those short amount of words. And what I've done is I've just collated together a few of my favourite tweets from you. And there's this one, I'm going to call it a genre. There's one genre of tweet that you have. I don't know if they're called tweets now or posts, whatever. I don't know. But there's one genre that really, every time I see it pop up, I get excited because I'm like, oh, what's it going to be this time? And it always starts with, I don't know who needs to hear this, or I don't know which teacher needs to hear this. And I'm just like, it's going to be every teacher ever. Let's see what he's going to say. Yeah. And what I love about them is they range from hilarious, nothing to do with teaching at all, really, or really serious posts. So I've written 3. So the first one,
can I jump
you wanted
in?
to read
I'll
this
jump
one.
in this one because even though this is not supposed to be teacher related, I can still bring it back to teaching. I'll tell you why at the end. So Omar wrote on Twitter, X, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if the pack says feeds 4 people, what they really mean is you can eat the whole damn box and not think twice about it. And the reason that really resonated with me and made me laugh is because literally yesterday I was given the remains of a 10 box of mini rolls. And there were 6 left. And I said, can I have one? They said, yeah, you can have the box if you want. I said, I don't think you want to do that. Because they were like, no, just take the box, put them in your cupboard. I said, they won't make it to my cupboard. I will eat all 6. They were like, yeah, no, you won't. I ate all 6. In fact, I ate 5, and I said I'll save one for a rainy day. Ate it 2 minutes after the children left. It was gone.
Ace. Well done. Well done. Was it in half term?
Half term? No, absolutely not. I was in school. Yeah, it was lunchtime. I'd eaten my
half
lunch.
term, then the calories don't count. See,
that's the rule.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
Oh, we've been doing it wrong. We forgot the first bit of that sentence. We just thought the calories don't count. Okay, all right, fair play.
Number 2 term.
Go on, do another one.
Okay, right. Sorry, Omar. I know we're just bombarding you with your own words here, but I want this next one. I don't know which teacher needs to hear this, but when you play this one hit home. When you play a video for the class, you don't have to keep pausing it so that you can repeat exactly what the man in the video just said. Are you guilty of this, or have you seen other people do it?
100% I'm guilty of it. A lot of the things the tweets which take that format, I've done them, and I know that other people do them too.
Yeah. I do, honestly,
it's like self-help when you write it. It's like, please, it's me who needs to. I don't know who needs to do this. It's me.
It's me who needs to.
I know the kids are going to think I'm lazy.
Yeah, there is some kind of. I get some degree of satisfaction from knowing actually it's not just me. It's everybody. I wouldn't have got that many likes if it wasn't. You know what I mean?
It was, and I. This is the thing. I read it and I was like, yeah, you don't need to do that. And then I thought back to my literal last science lesson I did with my class. I was pausing, going, so that's photosynthesis. It's like, yeah, he's just said. I'm just repeating it. I'm adding nothing to this. No, I'm basically I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm taking Omar's tweets and just be like, yeah, this tweet's funny.
But I said it. No, but I said it now. Yeah, but stop, because I said it actually. I know you want to go do a more serious one. Can I jump in with one more? Because one maybe.
It wasn't the same genre, was it? But
but one thing. So Omar, we haven't mentioned this yet, but you're a secondary school teacher, which is something else we're really excited to talk about, because we've had a lot of, obviously we're primary school teachers, and we've talked to a lot of primary school teachers. So one of your tweets just made me laugh, because it said year 7s really do volunteer for everything, don't they? Just short and sweet, and it just, I don't know, what's it like then? Like, what are they really like that? The year 7s, like
they are. They have their pencil cases are full of all sorts of equipment, man. If you ever want a glue stick or a highlighter, you just rob some year 7s. I'm telling you, they leave their pencil cases lying around. Just take it. Did I leave my pencil case? No, I haven't seen it. You know what I mean?
So funny.
And they will have everything in there. So yeah, they're keen and they're enthusiastic, and they've got that kind of curiosity, I think. Is what they have a lot of.
Well, they're going to lose it at some point, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It goes somewhere. Well, if you enjoy that, I mean, primary school is just that. But just keep going down the year groups even more. You know, it's
Can
so
I have any help? It's all the hands up.
Yeah,
you don't even know what it is yet.
Oh, that's so sweet. I have regular helpers at lunchtime where they're just desperate to please. They're just always on a please, and they say, "Oh, do you need any help handing out the sheets this afternoon?" Oh, yes, please. Do you need any help getting the books out? Oh, absolutely.
They
do you need
can't
help feeding yourself? Yes, you feed me my sandwich. It's fine. You know, they just do anything for you.
No, they absolutely can't wait to help out, can they? It's a lot of energy. I think I don't think I'd have the energy to be a primary school teacher.
I guess it links to the last post I'm going to mention. It's like entertaining, and I read your post and I thought a lot of primary school teachers need to hear this. So this is like the most, I guess, serious one where it still made me laugh, but it's the most got a good point to it in terms of like your teaching.
We can have a discussion about it. Yeah,
it was. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's nothing wrong with bookwork. Reading and writing are important skills, and not every lesson should involve you doing hula hoops and juggling axes whilst riding a unicycle. We're educators, not entertainers. And I watched that. I read that, and I thought, in secondary school, I bet that is like a conversation you have between staff where you're like, do I need to entertain them? Whereas in primary school, I feel like we're doing that every single day.
So the reason why I tweeted that specific thing is because there was a time, and in some schools that time it's still the case, whereby if you've got kids misbehaving in your lesson, you will be blamed for that because your lesson is not quote unquote engaging enough. What they actually mean often is it's not entertaining enough.
Right.
Okay. And all the point I wanted to make was that actually, you know what? Sometimes you need to read page 34 and 35 and answer the questions in the yellow box. It does not make you a lazy teacher.
Completely.
That needs to be done sometimes because reading and writing are fundamental skills. You don't have to do backflips all the time, and you shouldn't have to either. And I think the need to do that, or the perceived need, if you want to call it that, to do that, is part of what is fueling the recruitment and retention crisis, you know? Because instead of doing like a very simple activity, some of new teachers who haven't got the resource bank that we have yet, you're going to spend ages and ages trying to do something.
again, going back to the serious point, like I thought I read that and I was like, oh, that's the most serious point, still embedded in humor. And I think what you do really well on your timeline, and I'd implore anyone to follow, whether they're primary or secondary,
thanks,
is you say what needs to be said. And you say things that some people will look at and go, oh, he's just said that, you
can't say that.
Sometimes you don't have to be really entertaining for the children. It's like, yeah, because I'd say one word, Omar, and maybe you can tell me if this is right or wrong. When I hear you speak, the word realist comes to mind, and I think that's what really piqued my interest with what you've been writing as well about teaching for realists. For we live in the real world, and sometimes it can feel like online spaces are just made up in our head, where we've got to try and fit this box and look like we're these academia, amazing, over the top, we know everything. We're real humans just doing a job, and you encapsulate that really well. Would you say that's a fair judgment of what you do?
That is what I aim to do. Yes, it's nice to know that if you perceive me that way, I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much. That is what I aim to do. Because I mean, like I said earlier, what I found was that there is a lot of theory being taught, and I'm not disrespecting the theory. Everybody needs to know how to teach and all of that, but the other stuff, the reasons why I guess a lot of people leave the profession is because they haven't been told how to navigate around those things. Stuff that I talk about in my books, and the stuff that you have talked about, both of you, in your podcast episodes as well. I think that's what needs to be out. More of that needs to be out there, and that's what I do. What I do.
Yeah,
so,
it's brilliant, Omar. It's really good.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let me also just say, because honestly, the pleasure's mine being here, 100%.
No, not
because I've listened to I've listened to a handful of episodes of yours now, and I listen to it and I think these two guys, man, they're like my brothers from another. Like everything you're saying is like, yo, thank God somebody's saying this, and I'm nodding along with it as well, thinking, yes, that's what I would say. That's exactly what I think. I think I wrote that in one chapter.
I love it.
It's hard, like, I don't know if you find this, but we certainly find it. I mean, Dylan's online a lot, but he's running the Instagram a lot more, more involvement than I do. But people do comment and really try and put you down. Yeah, they really do try and fight back and be like, no, you're a rubbish teacher. Then, like, there's so much toxicity that I feel is like embedded into teachers, into the culture, into just everyone. Like, everyone's just out to get everyone.
And those people often aren't even teachers. I don't know if you get a lot of this, Omar, where people want to say stuff online who've never done a day in the job.
Oh God! Don't get me started on members of the public. You know what I mean? I avoid them though online, not in my daily life, of course.
It's hard to do it every day.
I just sit in my room all day. No, online in the Twitter sphere, X or whatever we were calling it. I avoid anything like that. But when there's a teacher strike or something like that, everybody's got an opinion.
Frustrating. Okay, well, what I wanted to get into now, and I'm really appreciative, Omar, when we spoke about what we wanted to talk about in this podcast episode, because I think, like you said, big theme for all of us here is saying what needs to be said. And something that popped up that we are going to dive into now is something that's a huge issue for a lot of teachers. We've seen it firsthand. You've experienced it, and you're going to talk us through some of your experiences with this. And it is bullying in the workplace, and it's actually toxic schools. So we're going to really dive into this. I know straight away, anyone listening who's experienced this, feel free to reach out to us. We can chat about anything. If you've experienced anything we're about to go through, there's help out there. And what we're going to try and do now is just lift the lid on it, Omar, if that's okay.
Yeah, do it.
So we're going to start off by just saying, you mentioned how, in your job, you started off teaching, you moved to school, and you did a blog post that you sent us, and it's a 10 out of 10 blog post.
We'll link it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we'll link it down below. It's so good. It's so real. And it's about your experience with bullying in the workplace. So I just wanted you to, first of all, if you could lay out the context of what happened in your experience in your second school once you moved there. How long did it take to start to notice this school's toxic? And what were the indicators for you experiencing that?
So, got to remember, this was in 2011.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm happy now.
Good.
And I have been ever since, you know what I mean? So this is not something that I am over it. So I've got to look back on it.
Which is also nice to hear, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
For people that are going through it now.
Yeah.
So I was moving house, and my house was too far away from my school. So I had to move school. And I visited the school beforehand, and bearing in mind I was only young then, everything seemed fine. But in hindsight, there was one thing they said on the day which should have made me not apply. And that was that meetings go on as long as they have to. Okay. Now, because it was the deputy, no, assistant head at the time. He says, we're not one of these schools where as soon as as soon as it gets to 4:30, everybody looks at their watch and, gets up and walks off. He said, meetings go on as long as they have to. And I was thinking in my mind, but I ignored it. When you have a thought, you ignore your gut instinct. That's exactly what I was thinking in my mind. The school I'm coming from, that's exactly what we do, in the sense that when it's 4:30, everybody's looking at their watch saying, hurry this along. Don't be asking questions at the end. We were very unionized, my first school. And that was a sign I ignored, and I shouldn't have. And then when I started the school, so me and the head of department, so I was new and the head of department was new. Head of department came from a similar ethos of a school to me, where she was able to lead her then smaller department at her previous school. She was able to lead it more independently. Now, when she started this school with me, she was being dictated to from the top. And when I say dictated to, it was literally every single thing. She couldn't even decide whether, you'll love this, because Key Stage 3 had red books and Key Stage 4 had blue books. She couldn't decide which color goes to which key stage.
She wasn't allowed.
That got told to her. Okay. So that was dictatorial, very much so.
Wow.
But even on a side note, the way they acted was dictatorial.
Sure.
So what would happen was, we'd be in the staff room because that's where the briefings would happen. And we'd have to get there at 8:35 a.m. Okay. At 8:40, all 12 members of the damn leadership team, okay, I think it was 12 of them, whatever it is. They'd all come to the front and line up in a row facing everybody, and everybody would just go quiet,
Red flag.
Just see, that was their display of, we're in charge here.
Yeah, you knew that it was going to be bad news pretty quickly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But like anybody, you try and you get on. You might not like certain things, but you think, hey, I'm here for the kids. Yep. I like teaching in the classroom, and that's all good.
Yeah.
And there's a few things I could tell you. So this was back in the days of coursework. Okay, so there was, this is pre-Michael Gove, or when Michael Gove was about to start. Mm-hmm. So there was still coursework going on, which was about to finish.
Sure.
Now, it was common at a lot of schools, although I didn't know that then, for kids to get Fs for the exam, or E, but an A star for coursework. And then then their average mark would be a C, then you'd get your 5 A to Cs. People used to give a lot of help in coursework, but there's help and there is outright, there's a lot of help, and there's outright cheating, as in mark scheme on the board cheating. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now they were doing that. So what happened was, my groups were getting Ds for the coursework because I wasn't doing what they were doing. Then everybody else's were getting A stars, not even A's, A stars. You know what I mean? Like the highest grade available, right? Yeah. All of them as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And they asked me to repeat the coursework after school. Okay. Now you got to bear in mind, these are 2-hour thingies, and if you've got 2 groups or 3 groups, whatever I had at the time, I'd have to spend all that time after school. Okay. And it was the assistant head who came to see me. He said, these kids have got to get C's. I mean, as in overall, that's how they used to talk, as if it was the stock, like stocks going up and stuff. It's got to go up. It's got to go. Honestly, it was all that kind of talk, which I wasn't used to.
So was he basically saying at that point? Was he basically saying to you, you need to cheat? Is that essentially what was going on?
You can infer that, can't you?
Yeah.
He was saying you repeat it until they get A's.
Right.
Okay. And to which I said, you can't make me do that. You can't make me stay after school. No. Okay. Not for that long, because I said union regulations and all that. So he came and saw me the next day, and then he said, I've spoken to the head, and he said, actually, we can make you do that because our school is below 12.65.
The whole directed time myth.
Yeah. And I was just like, that doesn't make it okay. But anyway, then he said, at the end of the day, you've got to think to yourself, if you leave here, what kind of a reference do you think you'll get?
Oh,
Okay. Now, so that was one of the major points. That's the point at which I realized that actually this is bullying now, right? But in the background of all of this, though, so that's just one incident. In the background of all of this, what was happening? They did a lot of Saturday revision sessions. Okay.
so more extra time basically expected from you.
Right. Let me also say the teaching in the classroom there was absolutely crap.
Really?
100%. And this is why I was just so
Yeah.
bamboozled by it all. Because in the classroom, I was cutting it. I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I was doing well in the classroom, going by the response of the kids.
Yep.
Okay. Those teachers weren't, but they were doing Saturday sessions.
Right.
Okay. And they were seen as more keen than I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing a better
so what
job.
would happen is somebody would come up to you with a clipboard and be like, "Oh, we're gonna, which Saturday session shall we put you down on?"
So leading, isn't it?
I was like, don't just let that roll off you. What do you mean? Which one shall we put? None of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to do a single one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you pushed back on that, and then what? But on that pushback, they didn't put their tail between their legs, right? They kind of doubled down and made it even worse for you, right?
So when I didn't do them,
Yeah.
and then the passive aggressive behavior came out.
Sure.
Okay, so we were getting emails saying these groups need intervention because it's their GCSE, it's their most important year. Can somebody please do it? Unfortunately, they're not getting any intervention on that. I was
Right.
like, these are all my groups.
That's enraging.
So the stuff like that happened.
Yeah.
And I could tell that I was being talked about as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you walk in and everybody goes quiet.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that doesn't happen to me now, but it was happening then.
What a horrible feeling, though. Horrible.
Oh, it was horrible. Now, you've also got to remember that in the midst of all of this, like the previous thing I just told you and this, my head of department was getting bullied too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, she was getting shouted at in meetings.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Like outright, loud voice shouted at.
Unbelievable.
Okay. She cried a few times to me. Right. And it was literally a toxic, because that phrase didn't exist then. This
Sure.
is what the other thing we've got to remember. Toxic school. No one used that phrase then.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
It was
you don't
just
know
school.
because you don't have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that was going on at the time. Yeah.
You mentioned very quickly. I just want to mention in the blog post again. We've linked it below, so anyone listening who wants to read it through, it's such a good read. You mentioned the fact that you standing up to, and a lot of people were listening to this saying, "Oh, I struggle to stand up to stuff because of the impact." Like you said, people talking about me, they don't want to feel that way. You also mentioned, and we've seen this firsthand, and I think maybe Hayden will talk about a bit more our experience of seeing it with other people. You mentioned about maybe you could explain to our listeners the impact it has when they turned around and said to you, "Okay, no problem. When we're sorting out classes next year, though, you're in 20 different classes," and this idea of SLT being like, "Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, we'll play the game, and you know what? We'll play the game 10 times worse
Trying
and
to
make your life awful."
through legit ways through the school.
So can you maybe expand on that a bit?
There was a point in that time where I just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to play ball. So I didn't do any Saturday sessions, but what I did say was, okay, I'll do mine after school.
Okay.
I've got a revision workshop Thursday after school.
For your own mental health at this point, right? Just so you feel that you get it.
Exactly. But I was tempted to do the Saturday sessions as well, and the reason for that was because of what you just said, because I should have mentioned that earlier, where people told me that they didn't do Saturday sessions and they were timetabled in 20 different rooms the following year. I actually spoke to people who did not have any 2 consecutive lessons in the same place. Now, I'm just for the listeners, what that means is you've got to take all your stuff, all the exercise books, okay, your laptop, your clicker, the whole thing. You've got to do that 5 times a day. All right. Now that will ruin anybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
You cannot function like that. It's like a constant feeling of, you know, that feeling you get where are my keys?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're rushing around trying to find your keys.
Yeah.
It's like that constantly.
Yeah. Insane.
You know? And it is
and
a horrible feeling.
You know, and they were doing that on purpose. They were doing that as a punishment to these
This is
teachers.
the thing, because like people told me I did not do them, and this is what happened to me. Yeah. Not only just on a side note as well, there was somebody who had time off, and that's what they did to her the following year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was their method of bullying.
Yeah.
Because I eventually left.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I left, my head of department, she was still there, and she was in 20 rooms the following year. So no, it wasn't just
No.
it wasn't
it
just me being
happened.
paranoid. It actually happened.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
we can attest to this. I want Hayden to talk about it because you're really passionate. Hayden's really passionate about this, and there are parallels because, like you said, you're secondary. Being in 20 classes, it's not really something you can do to a primary school teacher. So when we have like these parallel toxic schools, schools find a different way, and we've witnessed it, haven't we?
A few times. So Dylan, we've worked at school. We've worked at a couple of schools together. Now, back in the early days of our career when we were getting started, and we were super passionate and like we'd do anything. So we were in the good books at this point. We're in that circle of you're all right, you're all right, you crack on. You know, we like you. But we witnessed other teachers, and two people come to mind. Two amazing women come to mind who I learned a lot from myself because they were my heads of years across various years. They were coming to the end of their careers and they'd worked at this school for their entire career. You know, we're talking 30, 35 years in a particular school, like a real dedication. An
established teacher in the local community.
To one place, you know. And they both, you know, to cut this story a bit shorter, they both left on horrible negative terms at the school. One of them literally just left one day and didn't come back because they were bullied. They were just bullied by SLT. The same sort of thing. It's not the 20 classrooms. It's the, hey, this year you're teaching year 4. Hey,
and
next year,
it. And leading it.
Oh, and leading it. Next year you're going to go to year 3. Then you're going to go to year 5. And that's like our equivalent, by the way. When you teach in a primary school, if you're in a year group, you put so much work in to like get that right, and especially in your first year, right?
Knowing that year 2 will be better.
New planning, knowing that hopefully you'll stay in that year group the next year because you've put tons of work in. And these teachers were pushed around, and then here's the I hate this. I'm going to get really annoyed about this, but here's the other thing that primary schools do. It's the observations, and I'm sure it's probably similar for secondary schools. It's the observations.
That's what they did to my head of department. They were constantly in a room giving her feedback. It's like
feedback. So we had these, you know, these two teachers established 35-year careers who are basically being told they're rubbish because they just wanted to get rid of them. They wanted them out. They wanted new, fresh, cheap teachers in. Because
they were technically, this is a bit of the insight of, I'm sure, Omar, exactly the same in secondary school. These women were on 35, you know, the top of the pay scale. They were assistant head teachers baked into their contract. So as soon as they left, the school knew they could then not employ assistant head teachers, just whack this job on someone else for nothing and save 20, 30 grand. And that's all they cared about.
It was disgusting. The way they were treated, you know, long story short, they were treated in a disgusting way. And I have so much resentment still for the SLT team who committed this. Do you know what I mean? Who did this to these people? Like so inhumane, as if it's just some corporation and they're the CEO, you're culling the kind of the COO who's got this high paid job, and it's like, you've done your time, get out. You know, it's just not that workplace. And I don't know, just very icky. So it's, you know, hearing you talking about that bullying and that passive aggressive, we'll make your life hell then, see how you like it now, next time don't question me.
And this is culture. The thing, it stays with you as well. You know, I remember, because I'm thinking about it now, I used to park up around the corner of school and I used to chain smoke before I went in. I used to smoke then. I used to smoke here and there then, but I increased the smoking, you know, and I just remember just being the worst time ever. And these things don't stay quiet, you know. So when schools do this, they need to expect that other people are going to find out and people are going to withdraw their applications.
This is where, like, it always brings me back to this question, right? You know, from your experience from reading your blog, it sounds like you were kind of singled out essentially, and maybe your head of department as well. But it sounds like there was a big culture of other teachers, like, you know, your sort of position, who just took it and almost sided with the toxicity. Like, what? I just think, what is wrong with them for a start? Like, why did that happen? Why are they on the side that's against them? And how does that happen? Like, I don't get it. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of people, not just teachers, but people full stop, who have a very, I guess the word to use is paternalistic approach. And what I mean by that is there are some head teachers who so blatantly pick favorites. Okay. And I think with that, that's the way they did things there. So, you're a favorite, wink and a smile kind of thing. They won't outright say that you're a favorite, but if it's known that you're a favorite, then everybody else is not a favorite, is a hated person. So I think that's why once people know they're okay, they will just go along. They will go along to get along.
That's what I wanted to talk about, because Omar, you've spoken, and thank you for opening up about it. I know you've written the blog, and you're over it now, so it's easier for you to talk about it. But I think what you're saying is going to be really powerful for people who are going through it.
But just before you continue, though, Dylan, because I am over it. I mean, it's not something I think about all the time or anything.
Sure.
But you'll be surprised the extent to which your subconscious makes sure that that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, can you just come to my office for a quick chat? No, tell me what it's about first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why would I think like that? I've got no reason to distrust the person because of past things. So that's how they act.
No,
you know what I mean? When you're not ready, that's when they behave.
Do you feel like that is a big reason why you feel passionate about posting about stuff now? Because the point I was going to make was kind of linked to what you just said there, interestingly, is it stayed with me. I didn't even go through it. I witnessed it.
Yeah.
I saw it happen, and I thought, that can happen to me at a drop of a hat. And I feel like seeing it happen, seeing people being bullied in the workplace, had such a profound effect on me.
Yeah.
It's impacted what I'm doing now. And that's why I have no qualms sitting here on a podcast and saying, no, this school was completely toxic. This person was horrible. It's okay to say this because this is what happened. If you've got a problem with it, potentially you're part of that problem as well then. Because all I'm saying is you treated these humans awfully. You're in a school. You're not in some cutthroat industry where, like you said, you're Forex trading and you just want to make money. You're in a school where the entire ethos of the reason why we're doing this job, all three of us here, is because we love the children and want them to develop as humans. And we're in a culture where we're being treated in a way we would never accept the children being taught or treated at all. So I guess my question is, like you said, you're over it, but do you think that's what sparked your desire to want to get your voice out there? Because there'll be a lot of people listening who want to do what we're doing, but just feel a bit scared. Like, did you find it easy to speak out, or did it take this experience for you to really find that niche?
I would say, if we're talking about in terms of my writing and just generally speaking about it, so this is where I see myself, in you, whereas you're the same as me in the sense that you talk about the positive stuff, and you are clearly passionate teachers. I can see that. Okay, but at the same time, you don't hesitate to talk about the toxic stuff in the industry too. Yeah. So I'm the same as that. In terms of, did that make me speak out in some way? Right. So you didn't mention this at the start, and I didn't want to interrupt you. So one of my books is actually called Bad School Leadership and What to Do About It.
Amazing.
Okay. So I've actually written a book about toxic schools.
Amazing.
Right? So I actually, the phrase toxic schools wasn't out then when I wrote this. I don't think it was anyway.
Would you have done that as a title?
Do you know what? I probably would have. But so what I learned from being on Twitter was that my experience was not unique in the slightest.
Yeah,
okay. Sure. If you go to a union conference as well, you'll see that your experience is that what you saw happen to other people is not unique in the slightest. Yeah. And what happens is all the toxic leaders, if you want to call them that, they all operate in the same way. Okay. So the way I said 20 different rooms, you said you're going to be teaching a different phase.
Yeah.
And just those type of ways to screw you over, basically.
Yep.
So that definitely gave me the motivation to write this one. You know, but also it's not. I don't just advise on toxic stuff. That's one part of what I've done. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. And
I do keep things fun and practical. What I go by is practicality. Yeah. You got to be pragmatic in teaching. Yeah. You got to do what works.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
No, completely. And this is again why I feel I guess I don't want to be dramatic, but I do feel inspired by what you're doing as well, in terms of I see you write about stuff.
Same right back at you, back at you 100%.
No, I appreciate it, because the point is I look at what you do and I think, cool, we're on the right path, because what we want more than anything, Hayden and I, when we sit and think, okay, what we're going to talk about this week, we will talk about toxic schools, we will talk about how well-being's awful, we will talk about why we're striking, but then always we will think to ourselves, but you know what, okay, this week we need to do something more positive, because we do love teaching. We want to help people, and then we'll do an episode which is 8 tips to start the year correctly. Because like you said, we're pragmatic. Do you know why we're pragmatic? It's not because we like bitching and talking about it. It's because we want to fix the problem. And in order to fix the problem, we've got to speak about it.
And I'm really
passionate.
And that's the thing. And again, the PGC, the training courses don't do that.
No, not at all.
So why is it that these youngsters starting their teachers training, they don't know that till they're 3 years in?
Do you think that could be a huge part of the solution? Starting
yes,
right
absolutely,
back?
absolutely. They should. PGC courses should be required to read, and I hope I'm not blowing my own trumpet by saying this. They should be required to read my book and listen to your podcast on various. No, really, they should, because who else is telling them then?
Yeah. No, you're right.
So.
Yeah. I love that. Should we write to some universities? We should try and get them on the
go in there and do you know what though? If they were like, yeah, do you want to come in and do a half an hour talk? I'd be like, yes, I bloody do. I will come in and I will say teaching is great, but look out for these things. Because you know what? If I can talk to young Omar, right, and say to him, oh, by the way, and just stop you in that moment and say, you know that gut feeling you had there? By the way, trust that, because
you know what?
You needed it.
Exactly. No, 100%. I couldn't agree more.
So in your book, the one you just mentioned about bad leadership, like you said, and what do you do about it? Okay, what do we do about it then? Because this is something we talk about all the time, and I'm really excited to get your opinions on this. What do we do about it? Because we're always trying to fight this good fight. Can we win?
Yeah. See, this is the thing. I think there's been the tide has gone the right way recently with the union. People are more unionized now than they were when I was probably a similar age to you.
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, it was hard to get teachers to go on strike. It was actually quite hard to do. I was the rep at the time, and I was very much, if the union says strike, you strike.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, I don't really want to, and that kind of thing. It's like, no. So I think unionization is a good way. Okay. And we need to have the outlook that a problem for somebody is a problem for me. It's like what you just said, Dylan, whereby you witness stuff happening to other people.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will witness things happening to other people, and they will think, thank God it's not me. But you should not be okay with it, because it will be you at some point.
Exactly.
Or it might be. Do you get what I mean?
You're right.
Okay. So a problem for one teacher is a problem for another teacher. Okay. And the other thing, because a lot of these things stem from workload, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. The question that we should always ask is, how does this impact the kids? Okay. How does this impact the students? Does it impact their progress? Explain to me the impact. And that's actually a good test for toxicity, because a toxic leader is going to make a moody face and look at you as if, how dare you ask that question? Whereas a good leader is going to say, you won't even have to ask them, because they will tell you when they introduce that initiative. But normalize things like that. So the union asking questions, because if you're the one person acting, like if you're the only person kicking off, then you end up with a target on your head, right? Because they'll just come after you then, right? So it's all about everybody doing it.
Yeah, collective.
I mean, I do have like 4 chapters on this. I've only given you a couple, so.
No, we can plug the book, Omar. We'll put it in there to read it.
You know what? I actually never plug this book.
No, but I've not seen it. I'll be honest with you.
No, I never. If you look on my Twitter bio, it's there. The cover of it is there, but I never tweet about it. I never do anything, for the reason being, I don't want to come across negative, because I'm not.
Sure.
Really? Honestly, I'm not negative.
But you embed humor, like we said earlier. This is why I love your account, because it gets to the crux of things, and I finish the tweet laughing, and I'm just like, that's what I'm aiming to do. That me and Hayden worry sometimes that we're too negative, and people will say, no, you're just realistic, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I know, but
the problem is negativity and realism have been merged into this very close concept in teaching, and it's like, it's so toxic, the culture, that the culture itself is like, hey, if you speak bad about the bad stuff that we do, you're negative.
This is it, isn't it?
It's like, no,
that's a really good point.
What are you talking about? It's like, no, I'm just this is terrible for everyone. Why is anyone arguing against this? This is that question I asked you 10 minutes ago about the other teachers. This is what I mean. I'm like, I look at them, and I experience this all the time, every day, and people we talked on the podcast. And I look at my fellow teachers who I respect, and I think,
Are amazing teachers.
Aren't you feeling like I am feeling? Sometimes I feel like I'm really like losing. It's just an uphill battle.
Yeah, and that collective thing comes in, doesn't it?
Exactly. I just want to convince other people. And what they end up doing is they go, nah, you're just that negative teacher. You're just that negative Nancy teacher. And you get tarnished into that pile of, oh no, they're the crap teachers that we don't listen to because they're really negative. And it's like, no, I'm not. I really love teaching and I try to do this job really well, but I'm also trying to tell you to like stop being a pushover and say no to some stuff. Otherwise, nothing will change. I find that battle is exhausting.
It is. That's the one skill I want to master, is maintaining the balance between those two, being positive, but at the same time not being afraid to say, hang on a second, this is a problem and we need to do something about it.
There's something I guess we can finish on, is something that I think all three of us are again really passionate about. And if we're looking at things that join us together despite being secondary or primary, it is that positivity and that passion for the job. And the passion, I guess when I say the job, what I mean is the passion for the children and this idea of this is why we love it. And it kind of encapsulates itself in this idea of building relationships, right? And I know, again, you've written another book about building relationships. And for me, I think about what's my number one job when I go into a classroom with a new class. And I think it's to build relationships that are strong, safe. The children trust me. I trust them. We work really hard. And I think everything stems from a good relationship. And I want to throw it over to you and say, well, in general, how important are relationships in school? Not just from the teacher and the class, but the teacher and the colleague, the teacher and the SLT. What role do relationships have in school in making people better teachers?
Teaching is a job in which there is a lot of resistance. Okay. And in order to counter that, you need force, right? And it's your colleagues that are going to help you get that. Okay. So you need people that you can depend upon, and you need your work atmosphere to be a fun place to be.
Yeah.
Right. So I do believe teacher-teacher relationships are very important. I've known people to stay at schools which are difficult. They don't have a high Ofsted rating. They're constantly being scrutinized, but they stay there because of the team, because they've got the right people around them to get the job done, And I think it is as important to kind of foster the teacher-teacher relationship as much as it is what you said, the teacher-student relationship. And I think the teacher-teacher relationships, you don't actually have to do that much. It's more about what not to do.
Oh, okay.
I think it's more about what not to do.
What would you not do?
So in my experience, there's three kinds of people don't like, okay? The busybody, the martyr.
Oh.
And there you go. See, and the mood hoover. Okay? Yeah. So those are the three that you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the mood hoover, you could imagine. Now, here's the thing. You're not a mood hoover just because you're moaning about something one day.
Sure.
The mood hoover is the one that it's literally anything and everything. And you know that person when you see them. Any listener who's listening right now has got somebody in their mind right now. Okay, it's not everybody, but it will be one or two people. Yeah. Oh my God. It's like, when they're walking past, you go the long way round so you don't bump into them. So they'll stop you and bend your ear back and tell you something.
Oh, have you seen the bloody clouds today? Yes, I've seen the clouds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So don't be a mood hoover. And also the busybody. The people who just get involved, just poking their business. Oh, a kid in your class said they didn't understand photosynthesis to me. Do you want to go back and teach it to them? Oh, sorry, what? We don't even share the class. You're literally going by gossip from from a student to you.
Stick your nose out.
I'm thinking of people immediately.
You've got so many busybodies, right? And I think the hallmark of a busybody is that they offer unsolicited advice condescendingly in a way that suggests that they know more.
Oh,
so okay.
True. Yeah.
So that's what you don't want to do, because that's what, again, I do genuinely believe it's about more about what not to do.
Can I tell a quick story on busybody? Because I heard a story from someone.
Man, I want to hear it.
It was my friend. Okay, my friend taught me. My friend's been a teacher for, I would say, 13, 14 years now, and they went on maternity leave. And they came back recently, and they came back part-time. And in that time when they were on maternity leave, someone joined their school. So someone new came in.
Yeah.
And they came back off maternity leave, and it was just, I think, their second week back. and this new person walked in and didn't introduce themselves, but simply came in and said, "Oh, do you need anything explained to you, or are you feeling okay at the minute?" This person wasn't in their year group, wasn't their line manager, was nothing to do with them, came in and said, "This person's been working at this school for about 8 years, by the way. So, do you need anything explained? Are you okay coming back?" And she was just like, "What are you talking?" Like,
what's giving you the impression that I don't know what I'm doing?
Yeah, I couldn't believe what she was hearing. And I was just like, what do you do with that kind of person? And that is what you're saying, that you can't have a relationship with that person then. I don't think you can have a serious relationship with them.
No, I think the general rule is mind your own business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying don't be supportive, etc. I'm saying like this bit does not concern me, so I'm not going to get involved.
Yeah. You know? Especially from a strange power, like a power imbalance that you're trying to establish.
Yeah, that's true.
I know something more than you do, and I'm going to make sure you know that by asking you. Do you need me to do something for you? It's just unsolicited, like you said.
Yes.
Like, there's no reason to do that.
But the Martyr one, the other one you mentioned, that pricked my ears up.
What's your understanding of that term?
Okay, I'll let Hayden talk about it, because Hayden talks about martyrs a lot more. I'll very briefly just say, for me, a martyr is someone who quite enjoys things being bad, almost, and want to make a thing out of it, as if to say, wearing it as a badge because they've managed to do it, kind of thing. But I'll let Hayden talk about it.
Yeah, in a way, I guess to me, it's just people who genuinely believe that the more you martyr yourself, it becomes with status. You're a better, more renowned teacher if you sacrificed your weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And if you didn't sacrifice your weekend, you are automatically not as good. You know, and it goes back to your example, made me think of this ages ago. I was thinking of martyrdom when you said you've got teachers who aren't doing a good job in the classroom, but they're martyring themselves at the weekend. Look how good I am. Versus teachers, yourself, who's putting lots of effort into teaching in the classroom and then not doing the Saturday. And the idea that you're a worse teacher,
it's insane,
because you didn't martyr yourself. It's that status imbalance, and martyrdom. It is so rife in primary schools. I'm sure it is in secondary schools, and it kills me.
And honestly, and this was almost back in the day, it was almost seen as a good thing.
It was.
This is how it was, because I remember it's like, I spent 2 hours marking books last night. It took ages. The person next to me, I spend 8 hours every Saturday marking books. I was like, okay, how do you want me to react to that? Okay, so I'm inferior to you then because you spent 8?
Sorry, let me bow down to you. Sorry.
What we should be trying to normalize is, you wasted your Saturday then.
Yes, exactly.
You wasted your Saturday. No, I spent time with my family and friends. And that doesn't make me a bad teacher. You wasted your Saturday. That's what we should normalize. But no one wants to hear that, man. I mean, don't be a martyr, you know.
In our last episode, we kind of talked about this a bit and just said how it also sets a bar. Martyrdom sets a bar, whether you like to think it or not, subliminally, passively, maybe even actively, if enough people are doing it in the culture of the school. And we're all martyring ourselves. This is the expectation. We all give up our Saturdays now to run a group. Okay, we all do this, and it's the expectation now. And that's why I also agree very passionately with you that it needs to stop. We need to start calling it out and saying, "Oh, you're actually just being. This is stupid. Like, I'm not going to congratulate you or reward you in any way for thinking that it was sensible to do this." Like, and Dylan, challenged me, well, not challenged me, but you were playing devil's advocate and said, "Oh, are we telling people that they shouldn't go above and beyond?" And I was kind of saying, in a way, go above and beyond in the way you do your job in the constraints of the job. Yeah. But going above and beyond is not, I've done 8 hours of marking, you've done 2.
It was Emma Kell. I couldn't agree more. It was Emma Kell, I believe, that said this. Yeah, it was. It was Emma Kell on Twitter. That there is a such thing as good enough. Embrace good enough. Do you get what I mean? Above and beyond is something else. But there is a point at which is actually this is good enough. Do you know what I mean? Because our job is a bottomless pit. You can just keep making. You can spend. We could all after this call now. We can make our lessons better for tomorrow. All right, but that would be a stupid thing to do, wouldn't it? Because it's 9:30 at night. We're about to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Our lessons are good enough, then, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Omar, I just wanted to say I feel like we've had a long-ranging chat here.
We have.
I want to say thank you so much for your time. And
pleasure's mine, mate.
Last plug, Omar. I want you to just tell people where they can listen to your podcast, what it's called, and your books, because if you aren't following Omar, you need to. It's gonna change your perspective.
You're too kind. Thank you very much, Dylan and Hayden. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure to be on your podcast. Okay, so my first book, The Unofficial Teacher's Manual, What They Don't Teach You in Training. My second book, Teaching for Realists, Making the Education System Work for You. bad school leadership and what to do about it, and building relationships in schools. All of them can be found on Amazon. Podcast, The Unofficial Teacher's Manual, you can find that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on X at Unofficial OA, and on Insta, The Unofficial Teacher's Manual, and Facebook, The Unofficial Teacher's Manual.
Hey, there we go.
You've done
Brilliant.
that before.
Socials galore.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah. We'll link everything in the bio down below. So
Yeah,
books,
brilliant.
podcast, get involved. Omar, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, guys, thank you for listening this far. If you have got to the end of the episode, I'm going to ask you please to leave us a review on wherever you're listening to your podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. And I'll see you again next week. And Sol Hayden, don't know why I'm just saying me. You'll see us as well.
I am also here.
Yeah, well.
Bye, everyone.
I guess doesn't really count. So we'll see you next time.